Okay, it is Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. Nice to see all of you. We'll do a Rashi from the fourth Aliyah. I'm going to do a couple of Rashis actually today that are linked together, and each should be pretty short. Okay, so the fourth Aliyah, we of course have Yaakov preparing for the descent down to Mitzrayim and reacting to the famine in the land of Canaan. And the pasuk says, "Vayar Yaakov ki yashever b'Mitzrayim, vayomer Yaakov levanav lama titrau." So Yaakov says, Yaakov sees that there's food still in Mitzrayim. He says, "Don't be afraid. What are you afraid of? We can still get food, even though there's a hunger here in the land, a famine here in the land of Canaan. We're not totally sunk because there is food in the area. So we'll go to Egypt. We'll get food." The oddity of the pasuk is, of course, that it says Vayar Yaakov. Yaakov sees Ki Yashev B'Mitzrayim. Now, in the pre-Zoom era, one could not see into another country without traveling there, and Yaakov certainly did not travel up to this point into Egypt. So, what does it mean to say he saw that there was food? Really, it should have said he heard that there was food. So Rashi points this out. Vayar Yaakov ki yashever, right here in the yellow Rashi. Umehechan ra. How would he have seen? How would he have seen into Egypt that there was food there? V'halo lo ra'a ela shama. He of course didn't see. He heard. Hine shamati, etc. As you see in the next pasuk, he admits himself. Hine shamati ki yashever b'Mitzrayim. So why did it say Vayar Yaakov ki yashever, which is odd in and of itself? And the oddity is heightened by the fact that the very next pasuk, it says what it should have said all along. I heard there was food in Egypt. So what does it mean, ra'ah? Why is it vayar Yaakov? And so Rashi, based on Chazal here, inserts the prophetic angle to this whole story. Mahu vayar. What does it mean, vayar? That he saw. Ra'ah ba'aspaklaria shel kodesh, sheyesh lo sever od b'mitzrayim. V'lo hayta nevuah mamish, v'hodio b'ferish shezeh Yosef. So the Vayar here is a visionary Vayar. It's not literally he saw. He didn't go down to Egypt to see. It was certainly that he heard, as we know from the next pasuk. But the Vayar here is a prophetic sight. Prophetically, he saw that this descent would not just be to get food from Egypt, but that there would be a future story to his family in Egypt, that this descent was going to be more than met the eye, that this whole process that they were going through right now was going to spark a larger process that would lead to the next stage of Jewish history. And so I think this is Rashi's interesting from a number of perspectives. Number one, it introduces the prophetic. Now, as Rashi points out, it's not a full prophecy. He didn't know what was going to happen. He didn't know that they were going to meet Yosef. He didn't know that they were going to get stuck there for all time. But he had some premonition, some vision, some vayar, that there was more to this story than meets the eye. And that going down to Egypt would have some kind of ramification on the future of his family. He had a sense of that, a prophetic sense. So number one, it's interesting, Rashi, because it helps us solve the textual problem, vayar to shema. It helps us solve the question on the story, which is how he could have seen if he didn't go there. Thirdly, it introduces the prophetic element to this whole story, and that continues to reverberate in many Rashis throughout this story. There's little nuances of the story, of how the brothers go, of why they go, of what they say, which is all kind of predicated on the fact that there was more than meets the eye to this story, that there was a grander vision of this story taking place. And this is the first Rashi that introduces that. But the fourth reason why I think this Rashi is interesting is because it touches upon the conflating in Torah and Tanakh in general of Re'iyah and Shmiya, of sight and sound. On the one hand, we differentiate greatly between them. Eino dome Shmiya Re'iyah. That sound, which is kind of intangible, is a weaker form of a sense than Re'iyah, which is more tangible. You see something in front of you, whereas sound is something that is not literally in front of you, although we know physically speaking it is. There are sound waves coming at you, but you don't sense it in the same way as when you see something before your very eyes, as the phrasing goes. So on the one hand, we think they're very different. On the other hand, they're often conflated. The famous example is at Matan Torah, Kol ha'am ro'im es ha'kolos ve'asal lapidim. The whole nation saw the kolos, the sounds. How do they see sound? They hear sound. Of course, Chazal has to explain why is it Ra'ah, not Shema. So this is one of those instances where Ra'ah and Shema seem to be flipped. And anytime that happens in the Torah, we have to explain it somehow as being other than simple physical sight, because we know in general that Re'iyah and Shmi are very different. If they're being conflated, there's a reason behind it. And this is the reason why it's presented here in the Rashi. One more quick thing. I know it's getting a little bit late. When the brothers go down, it says, Vayerdu Achei Yosef Asara Lishbor Bar b'Mitzrayim. The brothers of Yosef came down, 10 of them, to get food in Egypt. Question Rashi raises here in the purple is why it says Achei Yosef and not Bnei Yaakov. At this point in the story, these brothers have nothing to do with Yosef. They don't know where Yosef is. They have no idea Yosef's even alive, and neither does Yaakov. The primary relationship here is with Yaakov in their life, and in the story in specific, it's Yaakov who's sending them down and giving them permission to go. So it would have made sense to say Vayerdu Bnei Yaakov or Bnei Yisrael. So why Achei Yosef? So again, Rashi points out in the purple, Melamed shayu mischartim mechiraso, v'nasnu libam lisnagimo ba'achva v'liftoso b'chol mamon sheyifsaku alehem. So even though they don't know they're going to meet Yosef, Rashi is telling us that through the phrasing of this pasuk, that the fact that the Torah defines them in this moment as Achei Yosef is an important preamble for us to understand the rest of the story. We have to understand who they are at this point in their life and what their mindset is in general vis-a-vis Yosef, even though it was a story that happened in their past, because it is important for us to shape the rest in our understanding of the rest of the story that is to come. Even though they don't know that they're going to meet Yosef or anything having to do with that, the Torah is telling us that at this point in their life, they think of themselves as Achei Yosef. They regret the Mechira, they regret the sale, they regret the whole story of what happened with him, and they would do anything to be able to get him back and to save him. And of course, that preamble, that piece of information that we tuck away in the back of our mind, really does come to the fore later in Parshas Vayigash, certainly in terms of the battle over what will happen with Binyamin and Shimon being trapped and everything else that transpires over there. And then, of course, the eventual reveal of Yosef to his brothers and the relationship that ensues from there, both mitzad Yosef having been able to forgive the brothers, but also mitzad the brothers really desiring that newfound relationship with Yosef. So these little hints over here, the Vayar hint of what Yaakov prophetically, semi-prophetically saw was going to happen in the story, the Achei Yosef hint that where the brothers were at in terms of their mindset, all these little pieces revealed to us in the psukim here, pointed out by Rashi, help to shape for us the rest of the story and help to make it more understandable how the story transpires henceforth. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Everybody have a good day.